39. Tonight, about 1 to 2 inches of snow with a low around 30, and Thursday, cloudy with a high near 38. Step into Fort's a children's theater company. It's a fort-building wonderland where theatrical elements, evolving light and soundscapes, and towering towers of cardboard boxes set the scene for shared creative play. That's Fort's, now through April 5th at Children's Theater Company. Tickets at childrenstheater.org.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome to The Gailey Show, the only daily LGBTQ news and talk show on the radio in the United States. I'm your host, John Parker, joined in studio by my executive producer, Jim Pounds.
Hey, everyone.
Okay, so it's been like in the 50s the past like 7 days, and we were driving into the station, and it's like 29 and snowing, and I was like, what is going on? Oh, yeah, it's February.
That's right.
So we're just, coming back down to reality here.
Yeah.
Here at the Gailey Show, based in Minneapolis, where yes, it does get down to 29 and snow in February, but it was nice to have that little break of 50-degree weather, given everything we've been dealing with when it comes to snow and ice here in Minneapolis and Minnesota.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to get to that here in a second. In the second half hour of the show, though, White House correspondent for the Washington Blade, Joe Rebekenny, is back. He joins us bi-weekly on Wednesdays to share his reporting from inside the White House and inside the Supreme Court and inside Congress. And he has an exclusive new interview with U.S. Senator Edward Markey. And so Joe will be here at the bottom of the hour to talk all about that exclusive interview that he's had.
Cool.
But up first, okay, Operation Metro Surge is clearly not over. So let's start with they're everywhere. Yesterday, there were 120 observations of ICE activity throughout Minnesota. When you look at the map of the metro, it's everywhere in the metro, everywhere. You can check this out for yourself at People Over Papers on their website. And it has dropped down, obviously, like in January and early February when we were at the height of it, we were seeing like 300, 350, some days 400 reports of ICE activity, from, them staging to them detaining somebody, to them actively going to do something like at a business or at a hotel or at a, house. And yesterday it was up to 120. Which is up. It had been down under 100 observations after Homan's announcement for a few days there, and now it's like back up over up to 120. And this includes ICE ramming into a car in Mankato yesterday. So for folks who are outside of Minnesota, Mankato is a town southwest of Minneapolis. And there was a legal observer, a couple of them. They were in a car. They were shadowing an ICE SUV. They then pulled ahead of the ICE SUV and turned down a side street. And they used their car to block the road because the side street, because they're like, if the ICE SUV follows them, they want to talk to this individual. And so they obstructed. The ICE SUV did end up following them down the side street. And instead of stopping, the guy accelerated and rammed into this car. The person in the passenger seat was pinned in to the vehicle. And no reports, or I haven't seen reporting that they went to the hospital, but on the scene, the individual who's pinned in, she was talking about how she was reporting pain in her neck and her hip and her shoulders. And when you see the car, you're just like, yeah, of course you would be, the way that he rammed into them.
Well, I mean, you probably shouldn't try to block the road to top. I mean, I think that wasn't very smart, but they didn't deserve to be rammed. No. Do you know what I mean? I think I would. That seemed like an odd explanation. But I know you and I have talked about the fact that we continue to see cars by the side of the road, which is not something you see very much in Minnesota. You go down to Texas, it's littered with abandoned cars. But up here, that's very unusual, and we still see them, and I'm very suspicious every time I see one that someone's been kidnapped out of them.
Usually in the winter, you think like, oh, someone broke down, you know what I mean? Or say they're having engine trouble because it's, -20 here in Minnesota. And now you look at them and you're like, oh, that very well could have been someone who was detained under a warrantless stop.
It's a 50-50 chance that it was just illegal activity by ICE.
And I want to come back to this idea that, it is, they were using their vehicle to obstruct, to allow for a conversation, to get the ICE agent to talk to them. That is not, then to your point, but that is not the cause for an ICE agent to then engage in violence and strike them with their vehicle. I think this is continuing to show that, are they de-escalating situations? No, they're not de-escalating situations. He could have saw that and then said, you know what, I'm going to reverse on out of here and I'm going to leave. And no, he chose to hit the gas and ram into these people.
Tom Holman is a liar, a congenital liar. And now that the legislature has started their session, I hope the conversation will turn to the Republicans in this state who frankly sicked ICE on us several months ago when they were talking about the Somali population here, that because they're all racists, they can't stand that. And so a lot of this has its beginnings in the Republican Party in Minnesota. And now's the time to start not just blaming Holman and Bobino and the other idiots from the feds.
Trump.
But they're all guilty. But people in this state
are
collusion.
Guilty.
The collusion. Thank you.
Collusion.
Better word.
Of Minnesota Republicans.
Better word. Lisa DeMuth would be
one. Speaking of the legislature, so they convened yesterday. For folks outside of Minnesota, Minnesota has a part-time legislature, so they convened. And this was the first time they had convened since the assassination of Minnesota House Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman and her husband. And Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman, who survived multiple gunshot wounds that night by that same assassin, and his wife, they both survived. He spoke and gave a speech yesterday that was very moving. You can go and you can see it online. There's a huge memorial of flowers on Speaker Emerita Hortman's desk, the one that she used in the House. There was a musical tribute there as well. So yesterday was very memorializing, ceremonial. The DFL is planning several pieces of legislation during the session related to ICE. The GOP is choosing to focus on a bonding bill because that's super urgent right now, which I don't want to talk about. Yes, so they do a bonding bill in the off years. So that is important. That is work that needs to be done. And the DFL has said very clearly, yeah, we're going to do a bonding bill. We always do a bonding bill. But the fact that they're only wanting to do a bonding bill when we have all of this other stuff going on, particularly an economic crisis on our hands, is very telling. And Jim, go ahead. I'm going to pull up a story here because there was testimony today in the education committee, and I want to talk about that.
I think it's interesting to note, because I'd forgotten this. The session ended in June, and Speaker Hortman was assassinated in July. So isn't that correct? No,
it was in June.
Well, it was after the session, though. The session
because I was in Marquette for Pride. We were covering Pride. The show.
I'm sorry. The session had ended, and then she was killed. So really, there, like you said, there has been no official business since she died, and since her husband died, and
there was going to be a special session, as I understand it, but they couldn't come to an agreement on what they were going to cover because the MAGA GOP doesn't care about any type of gun control. So
more guns. You can
but
see what a year we've had with all these guns.
Today, the Senate Education Finance Committee was in session, and they had Minnesota school staff there to testify about what Operation Metro Surge has been doing, how it has been impacting their schools. There was, we've been focusing in on Columbia Heights. There's been a lot of stuff happening there. And they're, right there, they're my neighbor, right? And we had a couple of legislators on there, including State Senator Mary Kunesh, who is on the State Education Finance Committee, the chair. And they were talking about how Columbia Heights had 7 students detained, including Liam Ramos, right? He was the 5-year-old in the Spider-Man backpack. They're looking at a deficit of $8 to $10 million. Hiawatha Academy is looking at facing a 10% reduction because their funding is tied to low-income students. A social worker testified from the St. Paul Public Schools and was talking about how even though voters had backed an increase, most recently in the state's second largest district for raising funds, the budget is still tight. And she testified that she is terrified, her word, that the school is going to have to cut back on positions like social workers and counselors. And this is the time when, if ever there was a time to have social workers and counselors in schools to process what is going on, they may be forced to be cutting them back. Absenteeism, State Senator Bonnie Westland from Plymouth was talking about this, saying that, you know, there are kids that do not want to go to school because ICE has been patrolling schools, going around and around, you know, like literally just driving around and around these schools. They have been, according to State Senator Mary Kunesh, when she was here on the show a couple weeks ago, they have been sitting outside the homes of school board members, right? They have been terrorizing schools in Minnesota. And so kids don't want to go there. Parents don't want to send their kids to school. And people will be like, oh, well, it's just the undocumented people who should worry about that. No, when you look at the number of people, hundreds, thousands of people who have been detained by ICE, have their green cards, have valid work visas, are citizens of the United States, but they are Latino, they are Somali, and so they're being racially profiled and they are being picked up. And who wants to go through that? Who wants to be sent to Whipple? Why take that risk? So absenteeism is a problem here. But this is what I love, though. I mean, I don't love this, but here, Republican State Senator Eric Lucero is upset at today's hearing.
Oh.
He said that there were important voices that were missing from the testimony today, including people who support law enforcement.
Oh.
And this is just the most audacious thing. He was talking about how upset he was that there weren't people there to testify about the new opportunities there are available to citizens now that, quote unquote, illegal immigrants aren't there taking up all of the limited resources. Can you imagine?
Just sees it as
Can you
collateral
imagine?
Yeah, I can. And Eric Lucero should not receive a vote from any decent human being in the state of Minnesota.
He said that it is not civil dialogue to describe ICE agents as terrorists. Apparently, he hasn't been paying attention, nor has he been paying attention to people in his party who are saying the point is to terrorize people to get them to self-deport. You're listening to The Gailey Show. We'll have more after this break.
Are you tired of hearing how white European men discovered everything? Then 10,000 Things Theater's production of Men on Boats by Jacqueline Backhouse is for you. It features a cast of the people the first expedition to the Grand Canyon in 1869 left out, running February 19th through March 15th at 4 different locations, starting with Open Book in Minneapolis. Contact 10,000things.org. That's 10,000things.org.
What if I told you that toxic pesticides from crop seeds and lawns have spread all over Minnesota's lands and water, devastating wildlife and posing risks to our health? Well, it's true. But a coalition of Minnesota farmers, community members, anglers, and more are taking action to protect our state from neurotoxic pesticides. To learn more and get involved, visit cleanerseed.org. That's cleanerseed.org. And tune to Food Freedom Radio.
Greg Bakken here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. I've been telling you about my friends at Snap Construction, who are arguably the most well-reviewed exterior construction company in the metro. Don't just take my word for it. Take a look at all their reviews online. Winter is the most cost-effective time of the year to complete your construction project. A majority of Minnesotans choose to have their work completed on their home in the summer when they should be enjoying the weather. As a result, the demand for labor in the summer is much higher. The most cost-effective way to improve or restore your home is in the winter due to the lower demand. Right now, Snap Construction is offering an additional 30% off of labor to the AM 950 listeners on your next construction project between now and the end of February. Call 612-333-SNAP and mention AM 950 for an additional 30% off. As always, Snap Construction stands by their work with a lifetime craftsmanship warranty. Don't wait to get a free estimate by calling 612-333-SNAP or find them online at snapconstruction.com. Financing options available.
Hearts and beliefs collide in the poignant comedy, The Cake, playing at Theater in the Round. Della is a talented Southern baker whose life changes when she's asked to create a wedding cake for her late best friend's daughter, who's marrying a woman. The production offers a tender and funny look at the complex intersection of faith and family. The Cake runs February 20th through March 15th at Theater in the Round. Tickets and more information at theaterintheround.org.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I'm John Parker. We're coming up on the bottom of the hour in studio with my executive producer, Jim Pounds. And I want to underscore this idea of how applicable it is to use the word terror in relation to what DHS is doing right now. You know, Minnesota State Senator Eric Lucero can say that that's not civil dialogue. But when we have a U.S. official, unnamed U.S. official, testifying to United States Senate committee saying the point of using third-party deportations is to terrorize people, right? This idea then that they will arrest somebody, they will send them to a country they're not from, not their home nation, and then just drop them off there in a prison or just with, $50 in their pocket, not knowing anybody, not speaking the language. The unnamed official said that is terror. They're trying to terrorize the population to get them to self-deport. When you look at Doug Wilson, the pastor of Christ Church in Moscow, Idaho, who's saying what's happening here in Minnesota is good because it's leading to 1.5 million people self-deporting. Now, that 1.5 number is BS. Can't quantify that number. But he's a guy who Pete Hegseth goes to his church. He's fully on board with MAGA. He wants people to, quote unquote, self-deport. President Obama deported over 3 million people during his term.
Yep.
Did you see ICE shooting people, killing people? Did you see them ramming people into cars? Did you see them patrolling around schools and using 5-year-olds as bait? Now, I don't agree with what President Obama did during immigration, all of that. I think that, we could have pursued harder pathways to citizenship. He did have that. I am of the opinion, this is my own editorial opinion, that we need to do the Reagan amnesty again. For people who are here and who are already paying taxes and who have businesses and who are working here, we need to have amnesty. That is my thing here. But this is a campaign of terror that is happening here. It is perfectly applicable to say that what they are doing is attempting to terrorize communities.
Well, let's talk about Lucero for a second. He was born in Germany, number one.
Are you kidding me?
Latino. Or describes himself as Hispanic. So he would know, as we all do, there's some percentage of immigrant communities that work for that do jobs. Often people say they do jobs other people don't want to do. I've never seen that quantified, but I know that's true, particularly in slaughterhouses and in agriculture, which are horrific jobs that primarily Latino people do in this state. So I don't see that as an alternative. A lot of the people that were terrorized here in the Twin Cities were business owners. They own construction companies or remodeling companies or gardening, landscaping companies. So, or they owned restaurants or they owned retail stores or markets or so convenience stores. So this idea that they are taking people's jobs needs to be quantified, Eric. Don't just open your mouth. You're a first-time state senator. Don't open your big mouth without some statistic. Give us a statistic. And then we can talk about an issue. I don't think you're raising an issue. I think you're flapping your gums. So it makes me angry because there may be some information there in his district, how many people he's estimating. If he's not doing any estimating, he's just talking. And you can turn his switch off and ignore him until he's defeated when he comes up for re-election in November. You can defeat him.
When they say something like this, and I know this is obviously an extreme example here. This is a very extreme example. My mom's side of the family, Armenian survivors of the Armenian genocide. Like, I'm the grandson and great grandson of survivors, and the stories that they tell about being marched out of their homes onto death marches to camps, and how the Turks then went in and took their homes and took the belongings that they weren't allowed to take with them.
Yep. Furniture.
Right. And so when I sit here and I see, Republicans now saying, well, now we have all these opportunities for Minnesota residents because the illegals are all gone and we can take their stuff. It's like, whoa, do you not hear what you are saying?
He doesn't. Or he doesn't care. He either isn't smart enough or he's evil. I mean, I don't know. There's two possible explanations.
It's
dumb or evil. I don't know which one applies.
There are so many things that they would rather sit there and blame the state of the economy on Democrats or George Soros. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I've been going in and looking at some of these folks, these right-wing MAGA like podcasters and YouTubers. They are obsessed with George Soros.
Right.
They think this guy like runs the world. It is bonkers. Right. But this idea that everything that is wrong in your life isn't about Trump's tariffs, isn't about, pharma raising drug prices, right? Or keeping health insurance premiums up. No, it's undocumented workers.
Non-specific.
Like, what?
Right.
Are you kidding me right now? Right. It's just the fact that we have to keep having this conversation like over and over and over again is bonkers to me. And it's evidenced by the fact that, under the Obama administration, we didn't have thousands of people being hauled before an administrative judge or being hauled before immigration officers, and they've been arrested and detained and going, hey, here's my green card. here's my valid work visa. I'm a citizen. We didn't have that. So it's just, this is not an immigration policy. This is a campaign of terror to try to get people to self-deport. And it's not going to work, first of all. And second of all, it's not a good immigration policy. It's not. And one thing I really want to hammer home here is this idea last year in Minnesota, all of these MAGA Republicans were so upset that undocumented people could get health insurance. The reason why we want that is because when people wait until they need catastrophic care at an ER, if you wait and you don't have health insurance, that is now $25,000 for an appendectomy. Because your appendix decided it was going to kill you. You now owe $25,000 for that surgery. If you don't have the health insurance to pay that, and if you don't happen to have $25,000 laying around, even if you are on a 12-month payment plan, the hospital has to eat those costs. The insurance company has to eat those costs. The hospital has to eat the costs. So then they pass it on to people who have insurance. So that raises up what we have to pay folks who have insurance. That's why we wanted to have everybody have access to health insurance, because it ultimately brings prices down. But Republicans didn't care about that. They just were all upset. Oh, undocumented people, they're getting free health insurance, or they're getting health insurance. They can't have that. They're undocumented. We're paying for that. No, they pay taxes. Another fun thing that people don't know about, undocumented people pay tens of millions, hundreds of billions across the country in taxes. So this idea that now there's opportunity for people because undocumented people have been arrested and detained, it's so bonkers to me. It is just, All right, we're going to come back and we're going to have White House correspondent Joe Rebekenny when we come back.
Hi, this is Desi Doyen of the Green News Report and the Bradcast. You're listening to AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Why must the world be so cold? They've gone against what was told. Thinking rape is cool, think about it. They think it's not wrong, violence against women, the rape, the abuse, the emotional, physical. They all hold the hate, think about it. Is it right or wrong? What attracts you? I'm not saying no names, but you laugh. Talk about it like nothing is wrong. Think about it. They all hold the hate. Gotta stop the violence. Stop the hate. Think about it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, it's Rorez. February is the month for love, so when was the last time you gave your carpet the love and attention it deserves? Maybe you've been procrastinating on the holiday post-mortem cleanup at your house. Are you worried if you got down on your hands and knees what you might see or smell? Not only is your carpet one of the biggest investments in your home, but it's also the largest air filter in your home. And what's worse, you're going to be stuck inside breathing this nasty stuff for months. And you're just in time for Zero Res's post-Valentine's Day flash sale. Get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned for $109 plus a 4th room free. But you have to book by February 20th. Call my friends at Zero Res right now, 952-ZERO-RES, or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. A 4.9 rating on Google reviews and over 21,000 satisfied customers can't be wrong. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
Hey everyone, it's Ellie Krug, the host of The Legal Trends Woman that airs on Saturdays at 3 o'clock. As some of you know, when I'm not doing radio, I'm writing things. A decade ago, I published my first book, Getting to Ellen, a memoir about love, honesty, and gender change. More recently, my newest book, Being Ellen, A Second Chance at Life, was released. I'm thrilled about that. So much so that I partnered with one of AM 950's friends and advertisers, Big Hill Books in Minneapolis, for an author event where you can come and meet me and hopefully buy a book or two. The author event at Big Hill Books will take place on Sunday, March 1st from 2 to 3 in the afternoon. Big Hill Books is a lovely place with all things literary. Please come. I'd love to personally inscribe a book for you and to chat about what it means to live authentically, true to oneself. Again, please join me on Sunday, March 1st at Big Hill Books, which is located at 405 Penn Avenue South in Minneapolis. I look forward to seeing you.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for some light snow throughout today with a high near 39. Tonight, about 1 to 2 inches of snow with a low around 30. And Thursday, cloudy with a high near 38. Experience a gourmet dining destination at Cafe Latte. Their ever-changing menu of award-winning salad, sandwiches, and soups ensures you'll always find something to love. Because ingredients matter, Cafe Latte never uses artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives. Visit them on Victoria and Grand. More at CafeLatte.com. You're listening to AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Coming to you from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome back to The Gailey Show. It is 33 minutes after the hour. I'm John Parker in studio with my executive producer, Jim Pounds, also live streaming on our YouTube channel right now. If you like what you're seeing, click that subscribe button and leave us a comment about how you're enjoying the show. Since 1969, the Washington Blade has been the nation's independent source for fearless reporting, earning the paper the moniker, the newspaper of record for the LGBTQ plus community. Read their award-winning journalism at more than 100 locations throughout the DC region and online at washingtonblade.com. Joe Rebekenny is the White House correspondent for the Washington Blade. He is a graduate of American University, where he studied broadcast journalism and political science with a focus on gender, race, and politics. He covers LGBTQ issues and political news with a particular passion for exploring queer history in the nation's capital. He joins us bi-weekly here on Wednesdays with his reporting from inside the White House, the Supreme Court, and Congress. Joe, it is good to see you again.
It's fantastic to see you guys too. Thank you for having me back.
All right, you have an exclusive new interview with Senator Edward Markey, Democrat from Massachusetts. Just went live today at WashingtonBlade.com. All right, so tell us about it. You were talking about a very specific piece of legislation, but you had a pretty wide-ranging conversation with him.
Yes. Last week, he was the major voice in the Senate who pushed forward this trans Bill of Rights, which is hopefully able to enshrine trans rights into law that would address various issues related to the trans experience, including anti-trans bias in immigration, which was something I wasn't necessarily expecting him to bring up, but it was pretty profound, especially given the political situation in a bunch of countries that are, now almost echoing the United States, where it's not always super safe for trans people. Protections for gender affirming care, which, as we are seeing, is toppling it across the United States, unfortunately. Specifically, NIH research related to sexual minority and gender minority medical care, and military discharge situations that have been happening across all branches of the military. Yeah, and it's supposed to. Sorry.
No, I'm wondering now. Would this Bill of Rights at the federal level, would that trump state level bans that they have on a variety of things related to healthcare, education, etc.?
It would. Supremacy clause showing that the laws made in Congress do trump those over state legislation if they are in fact considered constitutional. So it would. And I talked to him about the legality and like the realisticness of this, given the super divisive Congress and honestly America that we have right now. I asked if it's realistic to see it pass in this session or, in the next one. And he said that he's not totally sure. He's super supportive and he's going to fight tooth and nail for it. But at least it's going to set a framework for a future Congress, if it doesn't pass now, to, begin the concept of accepting and protecting trans rights.
Do we know how many co-sponsors are on the bill yet?
Yes, there is a lot of co-sponsors. There was a bunch from the Senate, so Markey, Warren, Sanders, Welch, a bunch, and then over 100 for the House. So Japal, Jacobs, Takano. It's got a pretty good list of names that are pretty well known for being pro-LGBTQ advocates in the federal government.
Is Representative J. Paul, is she running it on the House side of things?
Yes, she is the major sponsor in the House. I got to talk to her very briefly there at the announcement outside the halls of Congress. What they call it, the Senate Swamp, which is a little area where they hold press conferences. Got to see her, got to see him talk about it, and got to see a bunch of trans people celebrating the rights that should be protected by the federal government. It was a positive thing to see, despite it coming amid all of this negativity surrounding the community.
How did Senator Markey get on this issue?
I asked that, and it seems that he's just kind of always been pro LGBTQ policy. He comes from Massachusetts, and obviously they were the first state in the U.S. to pass same-sex marriage, and he has just had a long-standing history of supporting the LGBTQ community. And I wouldn't say being the most progressive politician, but definitely having at least civil rights and human rights aspects very progressive in that regard. He's 79, a little bit older than some of the other Democrats in the Senate, but he has a lot of zest and passion for this, and it was really refreshing to hear.
Isn't the average age like 89?
Stop. It's definitely up there.
It's a pretty old Senate. I didn't know though that he was 79. Is this his third term?
This is he's been in the Senate since 2013. So maybe one more, maybe fourth term. And he's been in the US House since 1976. So he's been in the federal government in some form or fashion for, going on nearly 50 years now. And before that, he was in the Massachusetts House. So he's always seems to have had some kind of hand in attempting to protect people in some regard.
So, Joe, help us put this in context, because I'm told that the Democrats are obsessed with the trans community, and that they're just constantly doing everything for the trans folks. That's all they care about. How many bills last year did MAGA introduce nationwide
There were
that were
over
about trans people?
Yeah, there were over 1,000 bills passed in
Oh.
state and pushed in federal legislative offices. So one might argue that that statement is not true, and that it seems to be more coming from the Republican and conservative side of things.
Okay. And how many have we seen just this year alone?
There have been, I believe it's in my story. I apologize, don't have the number right in front of me. Yes,
689.
yeah, and we are only in February, so it's disheartening.
It's just, when I hear voters saying that people shouldn't be supporting progressives and Democrats because all they care about are trans people, and when you see the people who are actually legislating and wasting everybody's time around trans healthcare and education and sports participation, which affects like 0.01% of the population, it's that party. And this would stop that. This Bill of Rights would just kind of put an end to all of that, and we could actually have legislators dealing with the economy,
with real problems.
That's the goal, and it's being pushed at the same time in both the House and the Senate. So it is being attempted. There's a genuine attempt from both sides, or at least both houses, to push this forward.
We had hoped that under Biden, when they had in the first 2 years, when they had the House and they had the Senate, that the Equality Act would have made it through then. Did Senator Markey give any indication that these could be like paired together and go together, the Equality Act and the trans rights bill?
Yeah, he didn't specifically say anything related to that, like them being coexisting. But based on what I've read on both of these proposed acts, they do go in tandem together. And so it would make sense if we do pass the Equality Act. I would suggest it might even be easier to pass the Trans Bill of Rights, because that kind of sets a foundation for providing protections for sexual and gender minorities. And then the Trans Bill of Rights even goes further, specifically, outlawing any discrimination in forms of gender and, gender identity, sexual identity.
So for introducing it now for this year, is the intent then that he is going to just continue to find support? So talk to have his staffers, talk to other Senate staffers, and just continue to get more co-sponsors, recognizing that Trump would veto anything anyway. But is that I think that's what you were indicating earlier, was it just keep trying to find support for folks and keep doing that over the next few years?
Yeah, it seems to be that the path he's taking is just keep talking about it, keep mentioning it. He sat down with the Blade, which we had never had an interview with, to just get out the word and keep this on the minds of people, specifically let the LGBTQ community know that he is standing by and he will not lie down as people are attempting to remove these rights for trans people.
I will say Ilhan Omar is one of the people on the
Ilhan Omar.
Yeah,
great.
Who's John's
my representative?
Rep.
I would hope so, but I would expect that. But I'm glad to see that. Something, Joe, that you got to talk to Senator Markey about as well was Epstein.
Yes.
What did he have to say about that whole cover-up?
So, unfortunately, I only got to talk to him for like 15 minutes. It was supposed to be a 30-minute interview, but as for everybody's schedule, it got pushed a little fast. So I wasn't able to fully get into it as well as I wanted to, but I was able to ask about, this was right after Pam Bondi had her testimony discussing the Epstein files and, the White House's handling of it. And he said point blank, this is very clearly a cover-up by the White House and the DOJ of things that Trump and other high-profile people on both sides have done. But he said it's a cover-up.
He quoted a number, and you have it here, and I have it right in front of me, so I won't put you
38,000 times Trump was mentioned in the Epstein files. Yep, which is a lot of times being named in something that is not, you don't want to have your name in, quite frankly, especially now given the outcry from all political sides and all political parties. Trump again ran on this platform of releasing these files and exposing these criminals and these people who are violating women and children. And his team is now kind of backtracking. Well, not even kind of, they are backtracking. And there's still 3 million pages that need to be released. And a lot of names have been redacted. We've seen proactively protecting some of these voices. It's very clear based on some of the structures of the emails that they're not only protecting voices of those powerless and those who have been abused. It seems to be taking more of a protective of the people in power.
Something I've been hearing from reporting from Operation Metro Surge is, MAGA and ICE and Customs Border Patrol are saying, well, if you've got nothing to hide as a documented immigrant, then you shouldn't be afraid of a warrantless car stop or being detained by ICE. Okay, well, if he has nothing to hide, shouldn't he be okay with the Epstein files being released? I mean, does that logic not hold for him as well?
I would say it holds for him. It's a very clear, line, but Trump has been known to not always necessarily follow logic, or at least follow general consensus. He's got a very clear idea of what he's doing and what his goals are, and that, for lack of a better term, trumps everything else.
Mm-hmm. We're talking with White House correspondent Joe Rebekenny, who joins us bi-weekly on Wednesdays. He is the White House correspondent for the Washington Blade. Jim, did you have a question?
Well, I noticed this popped into my head. Peter Thiel was mentioned 2,710 times in the Epstein files. And what I've been asking John to do is to not refer to it as just the Epstein files, but as the Trump Epstein files, which I think is a kind of a growing trend among some journalists anyway, that it's like, why are we excluding him? It's really, the reason the cover up is happening is because he's central to it. So, but I am kind of shocked that Thiel was in there 2,700 times.
Why? It's like they're all in it. It's crazy. They all seem to be in it.
The rich and powerful. It's that cabal, regardless of sexuality, I guess, or any of those terrible things. It's the power people that protect each other, that have a different level of justice and everything else than the rest of us. But I'm interested in whether you think what your guess is the only way this is going to get out, these 3 million. It's not going to come from an administration that has no respect for the law. Do you think we'll eventually find the truth out after he's gone and we have a legitimate government? Do you think the truth will ever come out?
I can only speak on guessing, but I really hope so, as somebody who's, passionate about democracy and who, believes in the institutions of the United States of America. I hope eventually justice can be served and, we will get a clear answer. But under this administration, it doesn't seem likely.
Right. I agree.
We are here with White House correspondent for the Washington Blade, Joe Rebekenny. I have to fit in a quick break. When we're going to come back, we're going to talk about the Stonewall removal of a pride flag there and then bringing it back by the community. Also, there is a new lawsuit that Lambda Legal and Washington Litigation Group filed against a bunch of people. Folks, there's always a lawsuit. We'll have more with Joe when we come back. You're listening to The Daily Show.
Hi, I'm Jay from Greenhouse Salon and Shop. If your current salon experience feels rushed or impersonal, come feel the difference at Greenhouse. Our artists create personalized styles in a warm, inclusive space, and our shop is full of unique gifts from local women makers. See some of what's in store and book your appointment online at greenhousebrynmar.com. Better yet, stop by 403 Cedar Lake Road South in the quaint Bryn Mawr neighborhood of Minneapolis. Greenhouse, where every client feels cared for.
Greg Bakken here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh, every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. February is the month for love, so when was the last time you gave your carpet the love and attention it deserves? Maybe you've been procrastinating on the holiday post-mortem cleanup at your house. Are you worried if you got down on your hands and knees what you might see or smell? Not only is your carpet one of the biggest investments in your home, but it's also the largest air filter in your home. And what's worse, you're going to be stuck inside breathing this nasty stuff for months. And you're just in time for Zero Res's post-Valentine's Day flash sale. Get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned for $109 plus a 4th room free. But you have to book by February 20th. Call my friends at Zero Res right now, 952-ZERO-RES, or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. A 4.9 rating on Google reviews and over 21,000 satisfied customers can't be wrong. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. I've been telling you about my friends at Snap Construction, who are arguably the most well-reviewed exterior construction company in the metro. Don't just take my word for it. Take a look at all their reviews online. Winter is the most cost-effective time of the year to complete your construction project. A majority of Minnesotans choose to have their work completed on their home in the summer when they should be enjoying the weather. As a result, the demand for labor in the summer is much higher. The most cost-effective way to improve or restore your home is in the winter due to the lower demand. Right now, Snap Construction is offering an additional 30% off of labor to the AM 950 listeners on your next construction project between now and the end of February. Call 612-333-SNAP and mention AM 950 for an additional 30% off. As always, Snap Construction stands by their work with a lifetime craftsmanship warranty. Don't wait to get a free estimate by calling 612-333-SNAP or find them online at snapconstruction.com. Financing options available.
Welcome back to The Gailey Show. I'm John Parker. We're coming up on the top of the hour, joined in studio by my executive producer, Jim Pounds. Bi-weekly on Wednesdays, Joe Rebekenny, White House correspondent for the Washington Blade, joins us to share his excellent reporting from inside the White House, inside the Supreme Court, and inside Congress. Joe, we're actually headed to New York for this next story. They just can't stop leaving the Stonewall Monument and Memorial alone. Give us the update of how the Trump administration has been antagonizing it this time and the new lawsuit against them because of it.
Yeah. Thank you for that intro. So the flag was actually taken down by the National Park Service following a directive by Jessica Bowman, who was a Trump appointed. Yes, it's a pride flag that has the National Park logo on it. So it's a specific one for this specific national monument, for the Stonewall National Monument. And it's very clear that it was created by and for the National Park Service. But this flag was taken down from the flagpole that stands in the middle of the Christopher Street Park, which is right across the street from the Stonewall Inn, where famously the gay rights movement is said to have been born in the U.S. 1969, police raided the bar and queer people decided they weren't going to take it. So they started fighting back, and it started an era that people like to call the Stonewall riots, or as I like to call it more, the Stonewall uprising, more to frame it more in the sense of pushing back against police brutality, which is what it was. But regardless, Obama made this space in 2016 a national monument, declared it such, and it has been being watched over by the National Park Service. Technically, they are under the arm of the president and through the executive branch, and he put this new acting director of the National Park Service, Bowman, in charge, and she pushed forward a mandamorium directive, or for lack of a better word, I guess, to remove all flags that they deem unnecessary and just that they didn't want there. So they took down the pride flag, and the outpouring was very clear. A lot of people were very pissed, especially in such a queer place like New York City and at the birthplace of the modern LGBTQ rights movement. People were understandably mad. Then a bunch of local election officials, so Manhattan Borough President Brad Holman Seigel, and a few other local officials got together with a group of about 1,000 people and raised their own flag, zip tied it to the same flagpole and, said, we're not going to let an actual directive stop us, and we're going to keep flying our flag regardless of who's in the White House. As a result of that, Lambda Legal, who have long been supporters of the LGBTQ rights movement in the courts, with the Washington Litigation Group, filed a lawsuit yesterday against the Trump-Vance administration in the Southern District of New York to get this flag back to flying and to kind of show that we're not going to allow our history to be erased, regardless of what directives and what policies, what histories the president believes should and shouldn't be there.
And a reminder to the community, the Stonewall Uprising was led by Black trans women, Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera.
Yes.
Who knew? I think so many of us thought when President Obama added Stonewall to the National Park Service, a national monument, that was like, okay, this is going to be preserved. This is going to be handled well. And now I'm sitting here going, how do we get it back? How do we take it back from the national government? Because this is absolutely bonkers. Like, they keep constantly going in there. Like, they changed the acronym, right, on all of the documentation. They were they erased trans people from the Stonewall Monument. And now they're trying, they're like, well, we're not even going to let the pride flag be flown there. Like, it's just bonkers to me why they're so obsessed with it. Like, just leave it alone.
It's bonkers to me as well. And yeah, this comes after consistent works from the Trump-Vance administration to remove specifically trans people, as we've seen, throughout this show and, your other shows, that trans people are a major target for this administration. So some of the legal reasons that this lawsuit was able to be filed was the Lambda Legal filed it against the APA, which is the let me read the actual acronym. Regardless, it was where is it? Goodness gracious, I apologize.
Procedures Act?
The Administrative Procedures Act. That's the full name. And it essentially outlines what federal agencies that are created supposed to be independent are able to do and how they're able to work. One crucial part of this is to get public feedback before any changes are made. Kind of similar to a story I was writing about last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, in Florida that we touched on, about the changing of AIDS, those who qualify for AIDS, assistance in the state. Similarly, this kind of went around the rules that were created just to kind of push forward a narrative that the administration wants. And so under this APA, the Lambda Legal and Washington Litigation Group is hoping to get the rights back and to be able to fly the flag. They also argue very clearly that this makes sense to be flying this flag here. This thing that the Jessica Bowman pushed forward argued that it was, it wasn't relevant and it didn't make sense to fly in that area, as that's kind of what the whole thing says, is to outlaw flags that aren't relevant to the space. But it's very clear that the history of the space and the history of the LGBTQ community very much matter, and this flag should be flying there.
They said that pride flag isn't relevant to the Stonewall Monument.
Yeah. The current Department of Interior policy provides that only U.S. flags from the Department of Interior flags approved, missing prisoners of war, missing in action flags, can be on public display. The policy allows for limited exceptions, permitting non-agency flags when they serve a, quote, official purpose. I would argue that the pride flag at Stonewall serves quite a big and glaring official purpose, but the Trump administration doesn't feel so.
Joe Rebekenny is the White House correspondent for the Washington Blade. You can read all of his amazing reporting from inside the White House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, and Congress at WashingtonBlade.com. Joe, thank you as always for your time. See you back here in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that's all for us today. Until this time tomorrow, keep it queer, America.
Keep it queer.